How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Bryan, and today we're going to be doing a review of week 3 in fantasy football coming up for game week 4. Now, first off, a big congratulations to everyone who brought in Sterling. He was never on my radar, so I'm not that fussed about the fact that he did get so many points. I knew a lot of people were targeting that Luton game, and fair play to you, but realistically it's my boy Awoniyi who ended up scoring again for the third week in a row. Now, I'm seeing other content creators also jumping on the Awoniyi bandwagon, saying he is a player to be watching, but realistically he's a guy that I did bring in for game week 2, captained him against Sheffield United, and the results are now paying off. Last week I ended on 55 points, which is 11 above average. It wasn't the best game week compared to week 1 and 2, but realistically as long as you're finishing above average, you're going to be doing well. Now, the next main thing I'm going to say coming up for game week 4 is do not be panicking using your transfers. We have transfer deadline day coming up this Friday or Thursday, as well as an international break right after. Don't be wasting your transfers if you're sitting on 2. Don't be getting rid of them yet. Maybe use 1 so you can rebank then for after and maybe do an assessment then, but don't be panicking yet. This is a marathon, not a sprint. There's a lot of people out there who are using their wild cards, which I think is just way too early, especially when the transfer deadline's coming up. You don't know if any of them players are going to be gone, if somebody's going to come in for a big bid for one of your players. You just need to be patient. Sit this one out, maybe just calm down until after this. You might be dropping down your leaderboards in your mini leagues or whatever like that, but we still have so long to go. Don't be panicking, sit tight, we'll get through this. It's not the end of the world if you maybe had a bad game week here or there. It's all about making sure that you can capitalise on the most points going forward. In saying that, let's look over to my team to see who I can do for my 1 transfer, as I do have 2 in the bank with some money, and see what we're coming up here for game week 4. Right, so we're having a look here just at the top transfers in this game week, and you can see that Sterling has been brought in over 600,000 times, all because he got 19 points last week. That is a good return on a midfielder, and you're always going to get an amazing amount of people that are going to just be jumping on the bandwagon now. Chelsea do have a lot of good fixtures up, granted, but realistically it could be a waste of a spot because Sterling could easily blank, and he does have a little bit of an injury problem. He's not someone made of glass like, say, Reece James, who's been out now for how many times. There's a lot of players that could be coming in for that spot. You get people I think are maybe sleeping on Conor Gallagher for quite some time here because he's getting a lot of minutes as well. I'm not saying I'm not impressed with Sterling, and realistically he is on the radar. I just think it's a little bit early to buy him just in case something does happen, because he will be playing in the England squad when they come up against Scotland next month. Come on, my boys, Scotland, we've got this. But we've got a long way to go for this so far. Udogie, though, he is one that I am vastly considering right now. I sort of slept on the bandwagon for him because I didn't need him, because I have Estepuna and Saliba, because if you pick Gabriel from the very start, you must not be paying attention, because he was outscoring Gabriel per minute per game all of last year. And if you did want to get a bit more advice in that, please make sure to drop a sub on the channel. I was ranting and raving about why is everyone picking Gabriel over Saliba. It made no sense to me, especially when it's a 0.04 points per minute for Gabriel and a 0.05 points per minute for Saliba. Yeah, Gabriel got a little bit more game time last week because of the injury, but when they're both on the pitch, there's one player that stands out that's going to get you more points, and that is Saliba. But moving on to that anyway, Udogie does look to be that guy for this year. For someone who's so cheap, and his price is probably going to go up. I don't know if the prices are going to go up tonight or they're going up tomorrow. He might be somebody you want to be maybe getting in a little bit earlier before that happens, but he's definitely someone I'm going to recommend on the radar. On the counterpoint, the amount of people that are getting rid of Rashford, I do think it's just a little bit early. If he didn't get them assist points at the weekend, I would maybe agreeing with that. And he does have obviously one of the difficult fixtures of the season come up against Arsenal on Sunday, but I still think you might want to hold on for him to see what happens after the international break, because there's going to be a lot more decisions getting made at that point. Because remember, last year Rashford was linked away from Man United to go to Arsenal at the very start of the season. That did fall through, but you don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of days, because anything can happen on transfer deadline day, and it may as well keep an eye on that, because somebody could just come into a team and then it's worth selling them, or somebody can get injured and they've got to replace them. Just sit tight. If you've got 2, fair enough, use 1, bank it, but don't be worrying just yet. There's a long way to go. Yao Pedro, that's an obvious one to get rid of. He's been subbed the last 2 games onto the pitch, not getting the most points. He's obviously his first game week, everyone thought what a bargain, what a hero, but that just doesn't look to be good for him right now. Whereas I am quite surprised to see Matoma here. I do think a lot of people are probably just switching him so they can get Sterling out, because it looks to be like all the midfielders there. You've got Rashford and Matoma are the 2 main ones, and Sterling and Maddison that are coming in, so that one does make a lot of sense. But I still think Matoma is going to be absolutely banging it in. You maybe just want to keep an eye on that. Yes, the Champions League and the Europa League and the Conference League is coming up, and maybe there's going to be a bit more of squad rotation in them places. I definitely see Brighton have a good run in Europe, because it'll be the first time I can even remember that them being in Europe, as well as your Villa players like Diaby. He might get a bit rotation, so keep an eye on that one. But the main point of today is just do not panic. So let's have a look at my team to see the transfer I'm going to make. As you can see, I've got 1.5 mil in the bank, and I've got 2 free transfers. The one I'm looking at the most here is I'm going to be taking out Martinelli, and I'm thinking I'm bringing in Maddison. He's really impressed me under Ange Ball. He's been absolutely fantastic. I know a lot of people were so confused about the fact that he wasn't even, like, they didn't think he was going to play on a Saturday, and then he comes in and gets a scrapey goal, but a goal nonetheless. As long as it goes in the net, you're getting your points for him. Keeping that clean sheet, which I was actually quite surprised about, because Bournemouth did look like they had their opportunities to score, and that's 2 clean sheets in a row for Spurs, which does also put up the price of a doggy for me in my head. I do think the fact if I was to get rid of Martinelli, that gives me 1.8. I can take out Baldock and then bring in a doggy, and then I'm still going to have 1.2 mil in the bank. But I'm going to give it one more game week just for this, because I really want to keep that free transfer till after transfer deadline day, when I can have 2. I think that's the most important point about going a little bit forward, not having to worry about using my wild card just yet either. I'm going to be looking, probably making this, I'm going to do it a little bit closer to the deadline day though, just because you don't know what's going to happen. Madison's concussion could re-come out again. You don't know what's going to happen. I would prefer to leave my transfers to later on in the week, as long as I have money in the bank, rather than using them early before the prices go up, because it does make a bit more logical sense. Because as soon as you bring in a player, you know 100% there's a good chance that they're going to get injured in training or something, get sick. Like looking at my draft squad, just in a point that here, Akanji I thought was absolutely nailed on, and then he ends up getting sick, and look who comes in for me, Matty Cash, who absolutely scored a brace from defence last week, which you cannot complain about in the slightest. Yes, it is very, very lucky, but I also do have my boy Awanyini and Darwin there. Something to also note, just on a side point here, with Evan Ferguson, now that Insensio was injured for so long, De Zerbi did come out and say straight away that Ferguson is starting. I find that quite strange for a manager to say in a press conference, but he did come on. Yes, Brighton were not that good, and they did deserve to lose, but the fact is that maybe Evan Ferguson is somebody we might want to be keeping an eye on for the upcoming game weeks, because he will be one of them rotational players between Europe and the Premier League. You might even see him in the EFL Cup or something like that too, but he's worth putting an eye on, maybe keeping a wee bit of your spreadsheet data on him to see how that's going. Just looking at some more statistics here, just on the game week 3. The highest points was 128. Someone had captain Sterling. Average points 44. We're on 55, and as long as you're above average, you're doing all right. The most transferred in was Mbeumo, and all of a sudden he absolutely just blanked. He was due a blank from how on form he was, and that will happen, and that's what you do expect to happen with the Sterling situation. It could easily come back next week and Sterling scored another brace because of the fixtures they've got up, because in the upcoming game weeks you're going to see Chelsea come up against Nottingham Forest, who have been impressive. Like, they did get goals against Arsenal, they did get goals against Man United. Yeah, they did throw the 2-0 away, but as long as your boy Awanyini is going to keep scoring, fair enough. It does make me really doubt Matt Turner a bit more, but nothing has been really more disappointing than having Jordan Pickford. You can see that Turner's at least getting the saves, so I even might consider him There's a bit of rotation, but I think for going next week, I'm going to have Maddison in this Martinelli spot. I'm still probably going to stick with Pickford because I don't want to be using a goalkeeper substitution this early. That's going to be around the wild card area where we bring that in. Haaland against Fulham, I'm going to go with a captaincy for that. Awoniyi's going to be starting up front for me because he is, like, as you can see, he's actually in the team of the week, or the overall team, with 20 points so far, so I'm glad I did put him as a captain earlier on. I'm going to be sticking with Saliba, or maybe bringing Kaburi. I don't know on that one yet. I'm probably actually going to stick with Saliba because of the goal threat. Kaburi, we've seen how good West Ham have been recently, and they've been absolutely battering them. But now I'm just looking at Baldock here. Everton have not scored, so there's a good chance that's what I'm going to go with. Newcastle have been looking okay, but that win that they just threw away against Liverpool, what a game, by the way, maybe puts me a little bit of doubt in him, but his goal threat from defence is unbelievable, so I'm probably going to stick with him there. I would actually rather put Saliba probably in the middle there, and put Kaburi up there, because João Pedro against Newcastle I don't see happening, but I'll make those decisions later on so far. So that's what I'm going to be doing later on this week, when I'm going to be making them subs when there's a bit more information on the card. But a little bit just a recap for today's video. Do not be worrying about your wild cards using both transfers, because the main points are we have the transfer deadline day coming up, as well as an international break. So after this game week, we have 2 weeks without any fixtures where anything can happen to any of your players. They could be gone, they could have left the country, they could be sick, they could be injured. Don't be panicking. Keeping your 2 transfers is more vital than ever before, because whenever you've got the international break alongside a transfer deadline day, it's more to try and get people to slip up and panic and bring it all in. Don't be worrying. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You've got plenty of time to go. And if you do have a free transfer, yes, Nottingham Forest are playing Awoniyi, but he has scored 9 goals in his last 7 Premier League games. I know the FPL Raptor said that same quote yesterday in his video, but I brought it up last week as well when I was like, he is a must. Someone's got to score for Nottingham Forest, and he has scored early every single time, except against Arsenal where he scored in the second half. But when he came straight on, so he's going to get an early goal and he's going to do it for you. He's been fantastic, and you can see that he's in the team of the season so far. Not a lot of information in terms of how well he's going to do going forward, but the fact that he's got that record in the Premier League right now, he's going to go on to do fantastic things. Keep him on your radar if you haven't gone for it. Bringing in Sterling might be you might be too late to the bandwagon after you've seen how many people have subbed it in, but maybe have a look at Maddison, because I think he is going to be a little bit better over the long run, because Spurs just look a little bit better than Chelsea. We do remember that Chelsea have only had one good result, and it was against Luton, who've just been promoted, and they're only going to have their first stadium opening this Friday. They're not equipped to be in the Premier League, and that's not a slant on you Luton fans. Like, I was very impressed in the playoff final when you beat Coventry, but realistically, you are more likely everyone's favourite to go back down, and a mid-table team like Chelsea was last year, in fact just above relegation really, beating Luton 3-0 is expected. So don't be panicking buying any of your Chelsea players just yet. I do have to take a little bit of criticism because I was very against bringing in Nicholas Jackson last week, and he finally did get his first goal, but it's still Luton. Chelsea have not been impressive in their other previous 2 games, and I might have a bit more information on them after Nottingham Forest, because this is their second year in a row in the Premier League, which is a bit more of a, you can make a decision on that far better than just beating Luton. And I'm sorry to keep bringing up Luton fans, but you're not that impressive, and Chelsea beating you 3-0 isn't that impressive either. We had a look at it. Was it Leicester beat Southampton 2 years ago 9-0, and then Bournemouth got beat 9-0 last year. Then Bournemouth go on to have an incredible game against Arsenal. Freak results can happen, and Chelsea just didn't look that good against any teams that they've played so far. So I'm not going to be panic buying any of them. I am still, as you can see, I've still got Chilwell on my team, but that is mainly because of the fact that he is a left back playing left wing, so the attacking threat is there, so keep him in mind. But that's all it's going to be for today's video. If you guys are new around here, please drop a sub down below for the fastest and most important FPL tips coming up for you. I will see you guys later on the week for the team reviews. Make sure to submit them down below, and I can see if I can do any assessments and help you guys out. That's all for today, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.